Welcome, dear brave soul. You're tuning into Horror Podcast, and I'm truly grateful you're here. Whether you're a long-time listener or just stumbled upon this channel, thank you for joining me for another scary tale. If you enjoy these stories, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow and means more than you know. I'd also love to hear from you in the comments. Tell me where you're watching from, what brought you here, or even what kind of story you'd like to hear next. Your support keeps this channel going, and I appreciate each and every one of you. Now, let's get into today's horror story. A couple summers back, I flew out to Arizona with two of my close friends. We were all in our mid-20s, freshly out of college, and wanted to take one last cheap, chaotic trip before full-time jobs swallowed our lives. The plan was to stay in Sedona for a week, hike during the day, grab food downtown, maybe hit a couple of bars. Nothing too wild, just somewhere warm and scenic to break the routine. My name's Troy. I'm from Pittsburgh and had never been out west before. The desert always looked otherworldly in photos. Orange cliffs, endless blue skies, the kind of stuff that made you want to run away from whatever desk you were sitting at. I was the one who found the Airbnb. It was a little Adobe-style casita with 2 rooms and a couch, tucked behind someone's main house on the edge of town. It wasn't fancy, but it was cheap and had solid reviews, mostly people saying it was quiet and close to everything. We got in late on a Tuesday. The host wasn't there to greet us, but he left the key under a rock by the front step and messaged us a quick welcome with a Wi-Fi password. The place was small but clean. Tile floors, old couch, fake plants by the windows. There were 2 wooden doors at the front, the kind that opened outward like a double gate, and the only way to lock them from the inside was to slide a wooden dowel through 2 brackets. It felt makeshift, but it worked. The first few days were great. We hiked Bell Rock, went kayaking one afternoon, had street tacos from a truck that changed my life a little. People were friendly for the most part, although one thing we all noticed was how often we were approached. On sidewalks, outside gas stations, even at the grocery store. It wasn't always aggressive, but something about the way some guys watched us lingered, like they were waiting for something. One guy tried selling us spiritual healing mushrooms while holding what looked like a landscaping rake. Another asked if we needed a ride to see God. We laughed it off at the time, joked that we must have tourist stamped on our foreheads. We figured it was just part of being in a small town that thrived off travelers. It was the 5th night when things got weird. We'd spent the evening at a bar near the creek. Nothing crazy, just a couple beers, live music, some fries. Got back around 11. The front latch was still in place, and everything looked untouched. We were tired from the heat, so we locked up at the wooden dowel, took showers, and passed out. I woke up to this sharp, plastic cracking sound around 3 a.m. At first, I thought one of the guys had tripped over something. Then I heard it again, closer to the door this time. A creaking noise, followed by this soft but persistent scraping, like someone trying to push something through a gap. I sat up slowly. The room was mostly dark except for a sliver of moonlight coming through the kitchen window. My friends, Eli and Marcus, were both out cold. One snoring lightly, the other with an arm dangling off the couch. I got up and moved toward the front door, barefoot, heart suddenly pounding harder than it had in months. When I got close, I saw the wooden dowel. Our makeshift lock bent inward, not snapped in half, but cracked at the center like it had been forced. I didn't say anything yet. I just stared at it. Then, as quietly as I could, I looked through the narrow seam between the doors. 3 people were standing outside. I don't know how long they'd been there, or what they'd been doing before I woke up, but one of them was inches from the door, his face half lit by the porch light. Another stood to his right, holding something in his hand. It was the missing dowel, the same one we had been using for nights. I remember the moment I realized it was gone. Earlier that day, when we left for lunch, I'd set it down on the side table and forgot to put it back. When we got back later that night, it wasn't there, and we just figured we must have tossed it somewhere, or maybe it rolled behind the couch. That's when we used a cheap camera tripod to wedge the door shut instead. Clearly, it wasn't enough. I opened my mouth to say something, but the words didn't come. I wasn't afraid in a horror movie sense. I was afraid in that slow, gut-heavy way that makes your hands go cold. The man closest to the door whispered something to the others. Then he looked directly at the gap in the door where I stood, and I swear he smiled. I finally found my voice. "Can I help you?" I said, louder than I expected. They froze. All three just stood there. The one with the dowel held it up and said, "This yours?" Found out front. I didn't say anything back. I just stared. My brain was racing through scenarios. Were they drunk? On something? Was this a robbery? A prank? Eli came up behind me, still rubbing his eyes. "What's going on?" The moment the guys outside heard his voice, they bolted. Just like that. Turned and ran into the night like they hadn't even been there. We opened the door and saw nothing but their backs disappearing around the side of the house. That's when I realized something else. The porch light that had been on when I checked earlier, it was off now. The bulb was unscrewed, just enough to kill the power. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. When morning came, we walked to the main house, where the host supposedly lived. We hadn't seen him all week, but figured it was time. A woman in her 60s answered the door. She looked confused when we explained what happened. "This isn't a rental anymore," she said. "I haven't listed anything since last year. That casita is supposed to be used for storage. You were staying there." We told her we booked through the site. Showed her the listing, the messages, the profile photo of a man named Rob. She shook her head. "I don't know who that is. I've lived here for 20 years. My nephew used to handle the bookings, but he moved last spring, and we definitely don't have any male cleaners." We showed her the message from the host about the key under the rock. "I haven't touched that rock in months," she said. It hit all three of us at once. Whoever we were dealing with. It wasn't the actual property owner. Someone had been pretending to manage the listing. They had access to the unit, to the messages, even to the lockbox that had supposedly been removed. We left an hour later, packed everything up and drove straight to Flagstaff. Didn't even bother with a refund. I didn't want to know what would have happened if I hadn't woken up that night, or if the tripod had slipped out of place. It wasn't dramatic. Nothing got stolen, no one got hurt. But the thought of someone watching us sleep, planning something just outside the door, still makes my stomach turn. We filed a report, told the platform, and flagged the listing. Last I checked, it's been removed. But sometimes I wonder if it just popped back up under a new name, with new photos, waiting for the next group who won't think twice about a cheap stay in the desert. A few years ago, my partner and I took a weekend trip to Asheville, North Carolina, to meet up with some college friends we hadn't seen in a while. Another couple came with us, friends of ours from grad school, and we all decided to rent an Airbnb instead of cramming into hotel rooms. It was supposed to be one of those low-key catch-up trips, good food, local breweries, just hanging out and not thinking about work for a few days. The Airbnb was about 20 minutes outside of downtown, a little remote, but not isolated. Kind of in that weird in-between space where the suburbs start blending into forested hills. The couple we went with picked it out. They liked the pictures of the porch and the hot tub, and it was cheaper than anything closer to the city. We figured it'd be fine. When we got there, the place looked exactly like the listing. Single story, sloped roof, painted sage green with those dark wood accents everyone seems to love lately. The inside was clean, a little sparse, but decent enough. The host left a loaf of pumpkin bread on the counter and a handwritten welcome note, which I thought was sweet. But something about the place just felt off. It's hard to explain. Nothing was wrong, exactly. But there was this cold stillness in the air, like the place hadn't been lived in for a while. The kind of stillness that makes your voice sound too loud, even when you're speaking normally. My name's Rachel. I was 29 at the time and working remotely for a logistics software company, which meant I didn't get out much during the week. I remember being grateful just to have a change of scenery, but the moment we stepped into the bedroom we were assigned, that weird feeling started creeping in. The closet was open. Inside, there was nothing except a tiny wooden chair, like the kind you'd find in an old kindergarten classroom. It was just sitting there, centered in the closet, facing out toward the bed. No clothes, no extra blankets, not even a hanger, just that little chair. It was too small to be decorative and too purposeful to be an accident. I remember standing there for a second, waiting for something to click, but it didn't. "Hey, that's kind of creepy, right?" I asked my partner. He just shrugged. "Maybe it's an Airbnb aesthetic thing. You know how people get with rustic." We laughed about it, kind of, and then moved on. I put our stuff down and left it alone. The others were already cracking open beers in the kitchen, and it was getting late. We headed out to meet some friends at a brewery downtown, and by the time we got back around 1:30 in the morning, everyone was tired and a little buzzed. I don't normally remember falling asleep when I drink. I just knock out and wake up dehydrated. But something about that house didn't let me sink all the way under. Around 3 a.m., I came to slowly. Not from a sound, exactly, but from the lack of one. The room felt wrong. Still in that way that makes your body tense before your brain catches up. Then I heard it. A laugh. At first I thought maybe it was my partner. He sleep talks sometimes, and once he laughed in the middle of a dream about losing his wallet. But this was different. It was too loud and too detached. The kind of laugh you hear from someone watching something they shouldn't be enjoying. Not a chuckle, not a snort, more like a stifled, high-pitched giggle. It sounded like it was coming from outside. Our bed was up against the far wall, and the window was just above our heads. A small one, the kind you get in a basement or older house. I eased myself up quietly and peeked through the blinds. Nothing. Pitch black outside, except for the soft orange glow of the porch light reflecting off the driveway. I held my breath, straining to hear. The giggling stopped. Everything went dead quiet. Then, just as I was about to lie back down, it came again, this time louder and closer. I felt the mattress shift beside me. My partner was awake. His hand moved under the pillow where he usually kept his phone. I turned to look at him. His eyes were wide open. "You hear that?" I whispered. He nodded. "It's not them." "I don't think so," I said. "It's right outside." The laugh was constant now, not a one-off, just steady, breathless, and strange, like someone trying to hold it in, but failing. It kept building in volume, until it wasn't just giggling anymore. It was full-on hysterical laughter, right outside our window, like within a few feet. My partner leaned over, whispering, "Did I burn my knife?" I shook my head. "It's in the car. I think I saw a fire poker by the fireplace, though." We didn't move, just sat there, still as we could, listening. The laughter didn't stop for a long time, probably 15 minutes, though it felt way longer. Every once in a while, I'd peek through the blinds again, hoping to catch a glimpse of someone, a drunk neighbor, a kid pulling a prank, anything that would explain it. But there was nothing. Eventually the laughter stopped, abruptly, like someone hit mute. We waited a while, maybe half an hour, before we let ourselves lie down again. Sleep didn't come easy. The silence felt just as intrusive as the laughter had. When morning finally came, I expected to see something on the ground. Footprints in the grass, cigarette butts, maybe some empty beer bottles. But there was nothing. We made coffee and asked the other couple if they'd heard anything. "No," they said. "We crashed hard. You sure it wasn't a dream?" That irritated me more than it should have. Not because they didn't believe me, but because I started second-guessing myself. But then my partner spoke up. "I was awake. I heard it too," he said. "It wasn't a dream." They kind of shrugged and laughed it off like it wasn't a big deal. But we knew. We both knew what we heard. We packed up and left the next morning. Cut the trip short. No one really said it, but we all felt done. The house was too weird, and the fun had dried up. We still talk about it sometimes, late at night, or when we're on road trips and pass through unfamiliar towns. There's no logical explanation that sticks. Why would someone stand outside a house at 3 a.m., laughing like that? Not talking, not yelling, just laughing. 4:15 solid minutes. There's no resolution to the story. No confrontation. No mystery solved. Just that cold, creeping feeling that someone was out there. Close. For longer than made sense. I don't know what they wanted. I don't even know if they knew we were in there. But whatever the reason, we never went back to Asheville after that. There are too many places to stay in the world to roll the dice on one that made us feel like that again. I didn't think I'd ever be the type of person to post a story like this. I don't even write in journals or text with proper punctuation. But something about what happened in June has stuck to me in a way that I can't shake off, and I just need to get out. We booked the Airbnb because we needed a break from the city, from work, from everything. Me, my partner Lauren, our close friend Danny, and his girlfriend Mads. We all agreed on 3 nights in a cabin outside of Missoula, Montana. Forested, quiet, off the grid but still with enough amenities. The kind of listing that says secluded in bold font with pine trees in every picture. I'm Theo, by the way. Not that it matters much, but I always find it weird when stories don't give you a name. We arrived on June 12th. Long drive from Boise, especially with Danny blasting EDM for 5 hours. The cabin was nicer than expected. 2 floors, high ceilings, lots of exposed wood. The bedrooms were upstairs, and the downstairs had a couch bed for the odd man out. That was Danny's friend Scott, who drove up the next day. Quiet guy, worked in IT or data or something. He was supposed to crash on the couch bed in the den. The first night was mellow. We grilled hot dogs, played cards, drank beers on the deck while the trees swallowed the last of the sun. There were no outside lights. That's not an exaggeration. No porch light, no street light, no glow from neighboring homes. Just thick trees and that creeping darkness that makes your ears feel sharper. I heard coyotes a few times, maybe an owl. No big deal. On the second night, we were all in bed by midnight. I just turned the lights off in our room when I heard knocking. Fast, loud, like someone hitting the wall with the side of their fist. Then a voice, low and panicked. It was Scott. Hey guys. Someone's out back. Lauren sat up immediately. I followed her to the door. Scott was standing there barefoot, pale, shaking slightly. The motion light went on, he said, eyes darting, and I saw movement. Someone walking. Thump, thump like footsteps. I swear. I looked at him, waiting for some kind of punchline. But Scott's expression didn't change. He looked terrified. I grabbed my phone flashlight and checked the downstairs. Looked behind the curtains, opened the back door, peeked around the corners. I didn't see anything. Lauren came with me. Danny and Mad stayed upstairs, still half asleep. When we came back in, we headed upstairs to their room. Their side had a small balcony with a sliding glass door. Just beyond it was a clearing that dropped into a slight slope, then opened into the forest. You could barely see anything past the tree line at night, but the moon was out and the glass gave us a wide view. Lauren pulled the curtain. I swear I stopped breathing. There was a man standing just at the edge of the clearing. Not moving, not walking, just standing there. He wasn't close enough to see his face, but you could make out the outline of him. The broad shoulders, the head tilted slightly, arms loose at his sides, like he'd been standing there a while, watching. I whispered, "Lock the door." Lauren didn't say anything. She just did it, quietly. We pulled back and sat on the floor. Nobody moved. For maybe 5 minutes, we just watched, barely breathing. Danny finally whispered, "What the hell is he doing?" None of us had an answer. The man didn't walk off. He didn't get closer. He didn't make noise. He just stood in the woods like some kind of silent statue. Eventually, he drifted out of view, like he was walking back into the trees. We didn't know what to do. Call the police? Drive away? Go outside and yell? We ended up staying in that upstairs room. All 5 of us. It was hot, claustrophobic. I sat on the floor at the end of the bed, not even trying to sleep, just watching the door. Every creak of the floor made my heart skip. We cracked the windows slightly, but nobody could relax. Eventually, around 1:30, Lauren and I went back to our room. I didn't want to, but it was too cramped. I told her we'd keep the lights on. She nodded. We lay there for maybe 15 minutes. I thought I heard something thump again outside, but it could have been the wind. Then the power went out. It was like the air sucked out of the room. The lights, the fan, the fridge hum, all gone. It was pure black, not just dark, black. My chest tightened so fast I felt like I was choking. I reached for my phone and fumbled it. My leg caught in the blanket, and I nearly tripped getting up. Lauren grabbed her phone and used the flashlight. I could see her hand was shaking. "Should we wake them?" she whispered. "I don't know," I said, try not to freak out. "I don't know if it's just us or..." No, Theo," she said. "This isn't right. This doesn't happen on its own." We bolted back to Danny's room. Everyone else was already up. Scott had his phone out. "No signal," he said, holding it up. "Same for all of us. Except Scott. His carrier must have been different, because he had one bar. Just one. Enough." He got through to 911, told them we had a possible prowler and a power outage. They said they'd notify the sheriff's office, but they might not be able to dispatch anyone quickly. Then they transferred him to the utility company. We gave them the address. Their answer: "That area is not covered." We just stared at each other. What the hell did that even mean? It's 2025. Everything is covered. They didn't have a record of us. No service ticket, no record of the grid. Like we didn't exist. The question hung in the air. Did that guy out back cut the power? We never said it out loud, but every one of us thought it. Eventually, Scott called 911 again. They said they'd send a fire unit out to investigate. Standard response, they called it. We waited. The power didn't come back until after 3 a.m. No one ever showed. No fire truck, no patrol car, nothing. When we woke up the next morning, we walked to the nearest gas station a couple miles out to grab coffee and talk to someone. The guy behind the counter was maybe in his 60s. Looked like he'd lived in that town forever. We told him the power had gone out. His eyes narrowed. "Storm last night?" he asked. "No," I said. "Clear skies." "Ah," he said. "Strange. Only time the grid drops is from snow or ice. And that ain't for another few months." Lauren asked him if he'd ever heard of power being cut manually. He shook his head. "You need to know the junctions. That's not something you just figure out." We left not knowing if he meant anything by that, or if he just didn't believe us. We still don't know what happened. Could have been some hermit. Could have been someone trying to scare us. Could have been nothing. But I know what I saw, and I know that power didn't just go out. Whoever he was, I don't want to see him again. Ever.